ruthlessly and mercilessly by the scavenging beast within her. Fat Judith had already eaten her slice of morning cake. Now she was chasing the crumbs around the plate with a stubby finger. The way her small eyes darted to the funeral breakfast laid out along the parlour table told me that she was wondering when it might be permissible to pay a second visit. I watched my aunt move among the mourners. Our little parlour was rank with the musty smell of cloth dragged from the back of dingy cupboards. I'd always thought it an irony the stiff black dresses and dusty coats carefully hoarded for the most formal occasions became shabby through underuse. I would never keep things for best. I knew I was born to feel the finest cloth next to my skin. Most of the village had come to see Grandmère buried. I suspected that some of those present were there to reassure themselves that she was truly dead. The fact that she was French by birth and had never lost her accent had always been a cause for mistrust, but it was mainly her skill with herbs that caused people to whisper. Aunt Claire had no interest in Grandmère's recipes. In truth, I knew she was more than a little frightened that the villagers might regard her with the same suspicion. I heard the word witch only once, when I went out with Grandmère. It was when she took me to visit old Mrs. Canvin of Light's farm, who had been struck by palsy. I was around 10 years old and thought it natural that a woman should prepare tinctures and syrups of ease. In the centre of the village, a group of boys, simple, lard-faced fools, gathered under the thatched roof of the Buttercross and watched us as we walked by. They were silent, but I heard the crunch of their boots on the stones as they turned to see where we went. Witch! The word was hissed at our backs, but Grandmère did not react, and neither did I. Later, after we had left Mrs. Canvin's bedside and were returning to the cottage as a full moon rose over the roof of the manor house, Grandmère stopped and cupped my face in her hands. Behind her, the empty Buttercross was a mound of shadow. Her black eyes caught the silvery light. "What do you think, ma petite?" "Think of what, Grandmère?" I knew very well what she meant. Until that day, I had never heard anyone call her witch to her face, or even to her back, for that matter. But from the mutterings and occasional raised voices I heard through the boards of my attic room, I knew Aunt Claire was fearful for our reputation. Grandmère smiled. "Am I a witch, Marta?" She always said my name in the French way. I thought of the farm boys at the Buttercross and shrugged. Witches exist only in stories for children. She ran an age-smudged hand over the shawl covering the pots and herbs in our basket and nodded. "Bien. Then neither are you, ma petite paille. But stories have a great power. They often hide the truth. Always remember that." I did. And sometimes I wondered if her words were a warning or a simple statement of fact. I watched Aunt Claire batter flies from the funeral baked meats. There was nothing of Grandmère in her form or her thoughts. My aunt was small, stout, and pink. The buttons down the back of her black crepe morning gown pulled and gaped across her wide shoulders. Looking back, I believe Grandmère must have known about that little tin hidden beneath a board in the corner of my bedroom. But when she first gave me that French pet name, P, I simply saw myself as the magpie to her crow. I never met my mother. She died before I could form a memory of her, but I imagined she was also a crow, or perhaps a rook, or maybe a jackdaw. Aunt Claire was a hen, but not the maternal kind. Here was an ordinary domestic fowl that scratched and quarrelled. She disliked me, and I think she also feared me. Now she turned from the baked meats and flapped a small puffy hand at the Reverend and his wife. They were talking to Mr. Colson, a farmer, and his wife Rebecca, who was standing half in the room and half in the hallway. The dark bulge of Rebecca's belly, the only part of her visible through the doorframe, announced the imminent arrival of another Colson child. This would be her 5th. In 6 years, I'd seen Rebecca's neat body spread.